Physics and marketing don't seem to have much in common, but Dan Cobley is passionate about both. He brings these unlikely bedfellows together using Newton's second law, Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, the scientific method, and the second law of thermodynamics to explain the fundamental theories of branding. Dan Cobley explains that physics can teach us something about marketing. He starts with something very simple, Newton's law. The force equals mass times acceleration. If we rearrange this formula quickly, we can get to acceleration equals force over mass, which means that a larger particle, a larger mass, it requires more force to change its direction. It's the same with brains. The more massive a brain, the more baggage it has, the more force is needed to change its positioning. And that's one of the reasons why Arthur Anderson chose the launch Accenture rather than try to persuade the world that Anderson could stand for something other than acquaintance. It explains why Hoover found it very difficult to persuade the world that it was more than vacuum cleaners, and why companies like Unilever and P&G keep brands separate like Ariel and Pringles and Dove rather than having one giant parent brand. So the physics is that the bigger the mass of an object, the more force is needed to change its direction. The marketing is the bigger a brand, the more difficult it's to reposition it. So think about a portfolio of brands or maybe new brands for new ventures. Then he explains that marketing becomes easier and luckily with no better point of sale tracking, more digital media consumption, we can measure more what consumers actually do rather than what they say they do. So the physics is we can never accurately and exactly measure a particle because the observations change it. The message of marketing is that try to measure what consumers actually do rather than what they say they will do or anticipate they will do. Then he explained that in physics we cannot prove a hypothesis, but it's easy to disprove it. Any hypothesis is checky. And the marketing is that no matter how much we have invested in your brand, one bad week can undermine decades of good work. And lastly, to the slightly obscure world of entropy, the second law of thermodynamics, this says that entropy, which is a measure of the disorder of the system, will always increase. The same is true of marketing. If we go back 20 years, the one message pretty much controlled by one marketing manager could pretty much define a brand. We can get a strong brand image or a message and put it out there like the Conservative Party did earlier this years with their election poster. But then you lose control of it with the kind of digital content creation and distribution tools that are available now to every consumer. It's impossible to control where it goes. Our brain starts being dispersed. It's out of your control. But while this may be inciting for marketers, it's actually a good thing. This distribution of brain energy gets our brain closer to the people, more in with the people. It makes this distribution of energy a democratizing force, which is ultimately good for our brain, your brain.